everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into the world of Metalpoint with artist DLammieHanson,
Metalpoint.
based right here in Chicago.
Yeah. She's doing some incredible work.
But yeah, for folks who maybe aren't familiar with Metalpoint, can you just give us a super quick, what is it?
Like the elevator pitch for Metalpoint.
Exactly.
Okay, so basically you're drawing with metal. It's as simple as that. You take a silver wire or a gold wire and you draw on a specially prepared surface.
So not just a piece of paper.
No. This is it's a surface that's been treated with bone ash or gesso, and it has this tooth to it. It's got this texture that allows the metal to adhere to it.
Okay, so it's almost like scratching it on there.
Yeah, kind of.
Right.
And as you draw these tiny little metal particles, they kind of embed themselves in the surface.
Yeah.
And that's what creates the image.
That's incredible. And so the end result, it must just have this glow to it.
It does. It has this luminosity that you just don't get with other drawing media. It's very unique.
So you mentioned silver and gold, but is that it, or is there other metals people use?
I mean, technically, you could use other metals.
Okay.
But silver and gold are the most common because they're relatively soft.
Okay.
And they leave a really nice mark. Plus, they tarnish over time, which adds this whole other dimension to the artwork.
Ah, so it changes as it ages.
Exactly.
That's really cool. And I know we're going to be looking at a ton of DLammieHanson's pieces today. But I think before we do, I want to know, what is it about her work specifically that you find so interesting?
Oh, man. Where do I even begin? I mean, first of all, she's just a master of the technique. She really understands how to use Metalpoint to its fullest potential.
Yeah.
But what really sets her apart is her subject matter. She's not afraid to tackle these really complex themes like race, identity, beauty, and she does it all with this incredible sensitivity and nuance.
I was going to say, I noticed that a lot of her work focuses on Black icons, Black culture, and it's not just portraits. It's there's so much emotion in there.
Oh, absolutely. She's really interested in celebrating Blackness in all its forms. And she uses Metalpoint to kind of elevate her subjects, to make them feel almost like, icons or royalty.
Yeah.
Which I think is really powerful.
Totally. And so we're going to be looking at pieces from a bunch of her different series, right?
Yeah, we're going to be jumping around a bit. We'll start with some of her earlier work, like the Barna Black series, and then we'll move on to some of her more recent stuff, like the Indigo 7 series.
Oh, and Dared to Be. I saw that series.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget about Dared to Be.
So many good ones. So should we just dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay. So Barna Black, first of all, that name. Very cool. What's the story there?
Okay. So Barna is short for Barcelona.
Gotcha.
And that's where she created most of this series during a self-directed residency.
Oh, wow.
And black refers to the dark, almost burnt-looking surfaces she used for most of these drawings.
So the color of the actual ground, the surface.
Exactly. She used a lot of charcoal and acrylics to create these really rich, dark backgrounds, which makes the silver point pop even more,
Oh, I bet. Yeah. The contrast.
Totally. It's very dramatic.
So there's this piece in this series called A Portrait of a Sun, and it's based on a character, Chiron, from the movie Moonlight. Have you seen that?
Moonlight. What a film. I think I cried 3 times during that movie.
Oh, yeah. It's very emotional, and I feel like she really captures that emotion in this portrait.
Oh, absolutely. Chiron's story is all about, identity and self-discovery.
Especially as a young Black man.
Right. And Lammie-Hanson was so moved by his journey that she wanted to create a portrait that captured all the different facets of his personality.
Okay.
So in the portrait, you see Chiron at different stages of his life. There's the young Chiron, and then there's the teenage Chiron, and then there's the adult Chiron.
Oh, wow. All in one image.
Yeah. It's kind of like a triptych, but it's all blended together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so powerful the way she's able to convey all that complexity in a single drawing.
That's really amazing. And speaking of powerful imagery, there's also this portrait of Miles Davis.
Miles to the Heavens.
Yeah.
Oh, that one is just, it's transcendent.
It is.
It's you can almost hear his music just by looking at it.
Yeah.
She really captures that sense of otherworldly beauty that he had.
It's interesting because I feel Metalpoint, it's a very precise technique, right? Every line, every mark is permanent.
Oh, yeah. There's no erasing with Metalpoint. Once you make a mark, it's there for good.
So I was wondering, how do you even approach drawing something as complex as a trumpet? With all the curves and the reflections and...
I know, right? It's a challenge. But that's what makes it so impressive. She clearly has a deep understanding of form and light.
Yeah.
She knows how to use those fine lines to create volume, to give the trumpet this sense of weight and presence.
And there's also, I mean, just looking at Miles Davis's face, like, to get that kind of expression.
I know, right? The emotion in his eyes. Like he's looking off into the distance, and
Yeah.
it's like he's seeing something that we can't even imagine.
It's so cool. I also wanted to ask you about these two other portraits from the Barna Black series. A portrait of his beautiful blackness and a portrait of her royal blackness.
Oh, yes. Those are both so striking. And they're interesting because she uses these unconventional materials in them.
What do you mean?
So in his beautiful blackness, she actually embedded real plaster into the paper.
Whoa.
Yeah. It creates this really rough, textured surface that contrasts with this smooth silver point lines.
Oh, I bet that's cool.
It is. It adds this whole other dimension to the piece.
So it's like three-dimensional almost.
Almost. And then in her royal blackness, the subject is wearing this crown made of barbed wire.
What?
Yeah. It's a statement, right? Like she's reclaiming the idea of royalty, but she's also commenting on the struggles and the resilience of Black women.
Oh, wow. And she used actual barbed wire.
She did. It's incredible. And she also incorporated platinum rings into the drawing, which adds this other layer of symbolism, like platinum is a precious metal and it represents strength and purity.
It's like she's taking these materials that have these like loaded meanings and then like flipping them on their head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what makes her work so compelling. She's always challenging us to think about things in new ways.
That's so cool. Okay, so after Barcelona, Lammie-Hanson was involved in this amazing project commemorating New Orleans' 300th anniversary. It's called 300 for 300. Can you tell me about that?
Oh, yeah. That was a huge undertaking.
I bet.
So basically, they commissioned 12 artists to create portraits of 300 important figures from New Orleans history.
300 portraits.
300 portraits to celebrate 300 years.
That's amazing. So how did she approach that? Like, that's a lot of people to research. And
I know, right? It's a massive project.
Yeah.
And for Lammie-Hanson, one of the biggest challenges was that she had to create a portrait of Bacati Batiste.
Who's that?
He was the founder of the first Mardi Gras Indian tribe. But there are no photographs of him.
Oh, wow.
So she had to rely on descriptions and historical accounts to imagine what he might have looked like.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. But she did an amazing job. She incorporated these Creole features and traditional Plains Indian dress to create a really powerful and evocative portrait.
So it's like part history, part imagination.
Exactly.
That's so cool. Were there any other portraits from this series that you found particularly interesting?
Oh, definitely.
Hmm.
Her portrait of Baroness Pontalba is really cool. So the Baroness was this like real estate mogul back in the 19th century.
Okay.
And she commissioned these famous buildings in New Orleans called the Pontalba buildings. They're these beautiful, iconic structures in the French Quarter.
I've seen those.
Yes. So in the portrait, Lammie-Hanson not only captures the Baroness's likeness, but she also incorporates these architectural details from the buildings.
Oh, wow. So it's like a portrait of a person in a place.
Exactly. It's really clever.
And there's also a portrait of Terence Blanchard.
Oh, yeah. The jazz trumpeter.
So she likes her trumpet player.
She does. She has a thing for trumpets.
So what's special about this portrait?
Well, he's standing in front of the sheet music from Mo Better Blues, which is a Spike Lee film that he did the score for.
Okay.
And it's not just any sheet music. It's the exact part where he plays this iconic trumpet solo.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. It's this really beautiful, soaring melody. And it's like you can almost hear it just by looking at the drawing.
Oh, that's such a cool detail. So it's like she's not just capturing their image, she's also capturing their like essence, their soul.
Exactly. She's telling your story through these visual cues.
I love that. Okay. So I feel like we should move on to the Dared to Be series now.
Yes. Let's talk about Dared to Be, because this is where she really starts to explore like Black icons and Black culture in a really deep way.
Yeah, and like contemporary figures as well.
Yeah, a lot of musicians, singers, that kind of thing. This series actually started as a way to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Essence Music Festival. So she wanted to celebrate all these amazing Black artists who had performed at the festival over the years.
That makes sense. There are so many good ones in this series, but I think my favorite has got to be the Erykah Badu portrait.
Dared to Be, ever-evolving Erykah B.
Yes. That one. I just love the energy of it. Like, she just radiates cool.
Oh, totally. You know, Lammie-Hanson has actually seen Erykah Badu perform live several times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she was really inspired by her style, her music, her whole persona.
Okay.
And so in the portrait, Badu is wearing this amazing buffalo hat. It's got all these like indigenous designs on it, and it's covering her eyes.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, it's like mysterious, but also playful.
Exactly. It's very Erykah Badu. And then in the background, there's this really intricate pattern. It's almost like a textile design or something. It's very detailed.
Oh, wow. So like every little element has meaning.
Oh, yeah. She thinks about every detail. Nothing is random in her work.
Wow, I love that. Okay. What about the Rihanna portrait?
Dared to be Fenty Headstrong.
Yes. That one's incredible too.
Oh, it's so powerful. She really captures Rihanna's strength.
Yeah, but there's also like a vulnerability there too, right?
Absolutely. She's not just this like untouchable icon. She's a real person with real emotions. And you can see that in her eyes.
Yeah.
In the portrait, she's got her hands kind of cradling her head. It's like she's both protecting herself and letting her guard down at the same time.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even notice that before.
It's subtle, but it's there. And I think it speaks to the pressure that she's under.
Yeah.
You know, as a woman, as a Black woman, as a businesswoman, she's got all these expectations on her shoulders.
Yeah. Totally.
But she still manages to rise above it all.
Well, and she's like wildly successful.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think Lammie-Hanson was really inspired by that, like how Rihanna built this empire from the ground up.
And didn't she start like a makeup line too?
Fenty Beauty, yeah.
It's huge.
It's amazing. Okay, so we've got Erykah Badu, we've got Rihanna. What about Prince? Dared to be Jack of Diamonds and Pearls. Ooh, I love this one. It's so playful, you know. She turned him into a playing card.
Wait, really?
Yeah, a jack to be precise.
Huge.
And it's a reference to his song Diamonds and Pearls.
Oh, of course. I didn't even put that together.
It's so clever, right?
Yeah.
And it's just so Prince, you know, he was all about like theatricality and breaking boundaries. And she really captured that in this portrait.
It's interesting how she chose to portray each of these artists in such different ways, like based on their personalities and their music.
Totally. It shows how much thought she puts into her work.
Yeah. Okay, I have to ask about the Mary J. Blige portrait too.
Oh, Dared to be. HHS, Queen Mary J.
Yes, that one. What's HHS?
That stands for hip hop and soul. So she's basically reimagining Mary J. Blige as like Tudor royalty.
Oh, wow. That's bold.
Right. And it's so clever. Like she's taking this historical imagery and then like reclaiming it for Black culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about like who gets to be royalty, right? Who gets to be remembered and celebrated.
Exactly. Yeah. And she's saying that Mary J. Blige deserves a place in that pantheon.
Totally. I love it. So these portraits are all incredible, but she also started exploring some more personal themes in this series, right?
Yeah, she did. Dear Beautiful Black Boy is a really special one. It's a portrait of her younger brother as a child.
Ah,
Yeah, and it was actually acquired by the Hilliard Art Museum, which is a huge honor.
that's amazing.
It is. It's a beautiful portrait, and it speaks to the innocence and joy of childhood, but it also has this, like, deeper meaning.
What do you mean?
Well, she's thinking about, like, the vulnerability of Black boys, you know, and how they're often seen as a threat, even when they're just kids. And so by portraying her brother in this very loving, tender way, she's challenging those stereotypes.
Oh, wow. That's heavy. And there's also a self-portrait in this series, right?
The best daydream ever.
Yes. And that one's really interesting, too. It's like she's in this old tenement window.
Yeah, it's like she's looking out at the world full of hope and possibility.
Yeah. But she's also, like, trapped, right? Like,
This tension between confinement and freedom. And I think it speaks to the experience of being a Black artist in America, you know, like you have all this talent and potential, but you're also facing all these systemic barriers.
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we need to talk about her most ambitious project yet. Dared to be Black and Shining.
Oh, yeah. The big one. This is a huge piece, one of the largest silver point drawings in the world, actually.
Really?
Wow, it's massive. It started out as a portrait of her childhood neighborhood in Harlem, inspired by a photo by Gordon Parks.
Oh, okay.
But it evolved into something much more personal. She ended up including members of her own family in the drawing.
Oh, wow. So it's like a portrait of a place and a portrait of her family all in one.
Exactly. It's this really beautiful tapestry of memories and history.
So how big is this thing?
It's 8 feet tall by 12 feet wide.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's huge. And it's done on 6 separate wood panels.
Okay. I can't even imagine how long that must have taken.
Oh, it was a labor of love for sure.
Yeah.
She spent 2 months just drawing the brickwork.
Just the brickwork.
Just the brickwork. Can you imagine?
Wow. That's dedication.
It is. It really is. And each of the 6 panels tells a different part of the story. So, like, panel 1 is called Olivia's Violin.
Okay.
And it shows a young girl practicing her violin by an open window. It's a really beautiful image, and it speaks to the power of music to transcend boundaries.
I love that. Okay, and then panel 2.
Panel 2 is called The Barbershop, and it's a really lively scene. You've got people getting haircuts, kids playing outside. It's just a snapshot of everyday life in Harlem.
It sounds like she really captured the energy of the place.
She did. What's cool is that both of the boys in the scene are actually her older brother at different ages.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's like she's weaving in these personal memories with the larger history of the neighborhood.
That's really cool. Okay, what about panel 3?
Panel 3 is The Parents. And this one is really special because it's actually a portrait of her own parents.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. Her dad is bouncing her baby sister on his lap.
Oh.
And her mom is watching the street from the stoop. Lammie-Hanson calls her the street monitor.
I love that.
Yeah. It's just a really tender moment, and it shows the love and care that goes into raising a family.
It makes you think about all the unseen moments that make up a life, you know?
Right, exactly.
Okay. What about panel 4?
Panel 4 is called The Dance, and it shows a group of kids watching a young girl dance on the sidewalk.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the girl's dance is inspired by the music from Olivia's violin in panel 1.
Oh, wow. So it's like the music is traveling through the artwork?
Exactly. It's connecting all these different moments together.
Yeah.
The figures in the window watching the dancer are actually her brother and niece.
Making it personal.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's her story, you know, but it's also a universal story about family and community.
Totally. Okay. Panel 5.
Panel 5 is The Hot Comb. Yeah. And it's a scene that a lot of Black women will relate to. It shows a young woman getting her hair done in a kitchen with a hot comb.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a ritual that's been passed down through generations, and it's all about community and self-care.
Right. It's like a bonding experience.
Exactly.
Okay. And then finally, panel 6.
Panel 6 is The Stoop, and it's the last panel in the piece.
Okay.
And this one is really powerful. It shows a group of people hanging out on the stoop, talking, laughing, just enjoying each other's company.
That sounds so peaceful.
It is. And what's really special about this panel is that there is a brother that Lammie-Hanson reconnected with after 60 years.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the man next to him is a brother who recently passed away.
Oh, wow. That's both beautiful and heartbreaking.
It is. And the women in the scene are her sister, her niece, and her mother. So it's like 3 generations of women all together. It's a really beautiful way to end the piece.
It sounds incredible. I can't wait to see this in person. Okay. So we've gone from these intimate portraits to this massive multi-panel artwork. And now we're going to switch gears again and talk about her Indigo 7 Gilded Agility series. This one focuses on dancers, right?
It does. And this is where her background in dance really comes into play. Remember, she started dancing at a very young age.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And she was really inspired by Alvin Ailey's work.
Exactly. So in this series, she's capturing the movement and musculature of professional dancers, mostly from American Ballet Theater and Alvin Ailey Dance Theater.
Okay. And she's using gold point, right?
Yes. 14-karat gold point on these beautiful indigo-colored surfaces.
Ooh, I bet that's stunning.
It is. The gold really pops against the indigo. And it's interesting because this series was actually displayed at the International Museum of Surgical Science in Chicago.
Oh, wow. What a unique venue.
Right. And it makes you think about the human body in a whole new way.
Yeah, like as both art and science.
Exactly. So in these drawings, she's really focusing on the dancer's muscles, their tendons, their bones.
Whoa, wow. That's a lot of detail.
It is. And she captures it all with this incredible precision. It's like anatomical drawings, but with this added layer of beauty and grace.
So what are some of the standout pieces in this series?
Well, Point and Grace is a must-see.
Okay.
It's a close-up of Misty Copeland's legs. And it just showcases the incredible strength and control that goes into ballet. Like, her muscles are so defined, so powerful, but there's also this incredible grace to it.
Yeah, ballet is so demanding.
Oh, yeah. And she captures that perfectly in this drawing.
Okay, what else?
There's also the veins of the dance, which is a similar concept, but it focuses on a male dancer's legs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's a really powerful image. It shows that male dancers are just as strong and graceful as female dancers.
And that they have veins.
Uh-huh. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful veins. I mean, it really highlights the physicality of dance, you know, the toll it takes on the body.
Right. But it's also about like pushing through that pain, achieving something beautiful.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Any other favorites?
Delicate strength is another good one.
Okay.
And that title is kind of a paradox, right?
Yeah.
But that's the point. She's challenging the stereotype that ballerinas are all delicate and fragile. So in this piece, she focuses on a dancer's back muscles. And you can see the power and the definition there.
Wow. Like, you don't normally think about a ballerina's back muscles, but they're obviously essential.
Oh, absolutely. And to make it even more interesting, she actually combined two dancers into one image for this piece.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like this double dose of strength and grace.
I love that. It's so creative. Okay, what else?
Let's see. Muscles and grace is another one that stands out. Shows a male dancer's legs in fourth position.
Fourth position.
It's a ballet term. It's a very specific way of positioning the feet.
Oh.
And it requires a lot of strength and flexibility. And she really captures that tension in his legs. You can see the muscles working, the tendons straining.
Wow. That sounds intense.
It is, but it's also incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the way the human body can move, can contort itself is just amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, are we almost through this series?
Almost. There are just a few more I wanted to mention. The grace in his self-embrace is a really interesting one. It shows a male dancer's torso, and he's in this, like, self-embrace.
Okay.
And his head is tilted back, and it's just a really vulnerable pose.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about strength, it's also about showing emotion.
Exactly. And it's challenging the idea that male dancers always have to be, like, stoic and tough.
Right, right.
There's room for vulnerability in dance, too.
I like that. Okay. What else?
There's another portrait of Misty Copeland called Points Dance, but this time it's a view from behind.
Okay.
And it focuses on her legs in second position.
Another ballet term.
Yep. It's all about the line and definition of her muscles, the way her body is perfectly balanced.
So it's like she's exploring all these different angles and perspectives of the human form.
Exactly. And then there's Lost in the Dance, which is really unique. You only see the dancer's torso with their arms outstretched and their legs are out of the frame.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's like a snapshot of pure movement. Like you're just caught in this moment of, like, pure expression.
It makes you wonder what the rest of the dance looks like.
Right. It sparks your imagination.
I love it. Okay, and last but not least.
Last but not least, we have Acknowledging Your Grace. And it shows a male dancer taking a bow.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a simple gesture, but it speaks volumes, you know? It's about humility and gratitude and the recognition of the power of art to move people.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a beautiful way to end the series.
It is.
So, wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the streets of Harlem to the world of dance, DLammieHanson is clearly an artist who's not afraid to experiment and push boundaries.
And she's doing it all with this ancient technique of Metalpoint, which is just incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how she's giving this old art form new life.
And making it relevant for the 21st century.
Exactly. It's amazing to see how she's taking this almost forgotten technique and making it feel so fresh and relevant.
Right. And her work, I mean, it really sparks a lot of interesting conversations, too.
It does. Like, we've talked about race, representation.
The power of art to challenge conventions.
Celebrate different cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
There is. And it's so cool to see how she's part of this, like, this bigger movement of artists who are, you know, kind of like reclaiming and reinterpreting these traditional art forms.
Yeah.
It's not just, like, nostalgia. It's about, you know, honoring the past, but also, like, forging a new path forward.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And it makes you wonder what other art forms are out there, you know, waiting to be rediscovered.
We imagined, like, I don't know what would be cool. Fresco painting? Like, what if someone took that up and, like, gave it a modern twist?
That'd be awesome.
Or, like, illuminated manuscripts.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much potential there.
Totally. And I think there's, like, a real hunger for that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, for authenticity and connection in today's world.
Yeah.
And I think these older art forms offer a way to kind of, like, tap into that.
Yeah, it's like going back to our roots.
Yeah.
But also, like, looking forward at the same time.
Yeah, it's that bridge between the past and the present.
And I mean, honestly, after this deep dive, I'm really excited to, like, go see her work in person.
Oh, me too. I've seen some of it in photos and online.
Yeah.
But I bet it's just breathtaking in person.
Yeah, the detail, the luminosity.
It's something else.
Yeah.
Like, there's just something about seeing art in person, you know?
Yeah.
It really connects you to the artist in a way that you just can't get through a screen.
Yeah, you can feel, like, the energy of the piece.
The artist's hand, you know? like their
Kind of shifts
process.
tension, yeah.
It's like you're having a conversation with the artwork.
Yeah, it's like a shared moment of understanding.
Exactly. And that's what art is all about, right? Connecting with people, sparking dialogue, making us think about the world in new ways.
Yeah, totally.
Art has the power to, like, move us, challenge us, transform us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think DLammieHanson's work does all of that.
She does.
So to everyone listening, I mean, if you get a chance to see her work in person, definitely check it out.
Absolutely. And even if you can't, check out her website, follow her on social media.
Yeah.
Just keep those creative sparks flying,
Keep exploring, keep discovering.
You never know what you might find.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the art of DLammieHanson.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure talking about her work.
Yeah, it's been fun. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration of art, culture, and the human experience.
Looking forward to it.